Would you have a COVID passport?
I would for the cinema, and that would be the only reason I take it.
Actually, you know what? Not actually. My question isn't would you have one. What do you think of the idea of having one?
It makes sense, I guess, but it's a bit mad, I guess, really. But again, how else are they gonna, I guess, quell the danger of COVID?
And these are the things that are not needed for the COVID passports: pubs, restaurants, non-essential shops, buses, trains, and hotels.
I mean, a lot of those things are like basic stuff, so they can't really like limit. If you don't have a passport, you can't go on a train. Like that's just not gonna fly.
Yeah.
So it has to be things that people can do without, like luxuries, basically.
Why could it not fly?
It's like
what we have now.
That are close to what we need, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to go to a football match, or you don't need to go to a concert. But like,
do you need to go to the pub?
Apparently, because didn't you hear people were breaking down in the middle of lockdown last year?
Pub, for example, is a big thing for like the economy, like pubs in general.
Not even that. People were chatting about mental health and like the need to sit.
So you don't need it, but for the economy, you can see why they would do it because pubs bring in so much money for them.
I mean,
more so than football stadiums, for example. Like for the government, anyway.
I think it's pretty bad. I think it's pretty bad anyway.
Pubs bring in.
I can see why that would be the same. Like they're way
more than nightclubs.
Yeah, easy.
We're thinking of nightclubs in Big Central, Big West London.
But maybe nightclubs is an exception.
Nightclubs is like you also have to think it's very. You also have to think it's very seasonal. Like it's like you've got
nightclubs.
Yeah, you've got you've got limited hours in terms of when you can operate. Like there's a finite amount you can generate.
Which adds to the amount. That you could charge.
It adds to it, but again,
it
adds to it. This is the point. Exclusivity adds to it, but if you're talking about just revenue, like if you're comparing those two things, it doesn't beat out pubs. There are way too many pubs, and way too many people will frequent them. Way too many people will spend more.
With clubs as well, it's obviously predominantly inside, whereas like pubs, you've got like beer gardens and things like that, where it can be like more.
Yeah. Like the spending power, what you can spend in pubs would be more than what you'd get from an average customer in a pub would be more than you get in a nightclub.
I don't believe that at all.
Nah, like with the nightclubs again, it's the cost is higher, but the volume is much more in the pubs.
Because you're not going to have a full capacity of people in a nightclub with COVID until COVID's gone, if it ever goes. Like with pubs, at least you can do the beer garden stuff. You can have people inside. It's more.
Wait, so are you lot talking about in terms of COVID or just in general?
Just in general.
I'm saying in terms of COVID.
Okay, so you think that
just in general
more money than nightclubs?
Yeah, like, and I'm looking at the UK in general. Like, I'm just looking at all of the UK. How much do pubs bring in for the government? And look at nightclubs everywhere, and how much do they bring in, bro? There are more nightclubs, obviously, like in London Central, than you would find in, say, Yorkshire or somewhere. And it's like those places are saturated with pubs.
Be more pubs than
like just look at it just doesn't I get like it's huge revenue obviously, but it doesn't
pubs
compare to pubs.
Exclusive, I guess. Because like you go to like a random town,
but you also have to think of
the whole place, but there's like 7 pubs.
You also have to think the amount that nightclubs make, because obviously if entry fee is, let's say, £30, you know, you have to buy at least, I don't know how much, like 4 beers in the pub to spend that much.
I hear what you're saying, but again, the ratio, the difference in volume is not even comparable.
Pubs
that's
open
why.
From like 10 o'clock till
that's what I'm saying.
12 a.m.
But the people who are really drinking and are spending the money are the people that are coming from after work.
But there's still people who go pub like
but bro, I'm telling you, like if you're spending, say the average person in a nightclub spends £100 that night, right? And in a pub, the average person spends, let's call it £20.
Yeah.
Right? That you're looking at that difference is mad. It is. But again, look at the number of clubs compared to the number of pubs and the number of hours that are open.
The time frames that they're open from.
Like you're gonna make up that margin easy.
Like, look at restaurants. You open from restaurants open say 10 o'clock till 11.
It's also different because you have to think of there's kind of like a roll on roll off thing with nightclubs.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do it with pub, but people don't really know. You go to the pub, you sit down, you leave. Like, it doesn't really happen. Like, people are going to be like, oh yeah, there's going to be a next wave of people now come to the pub. It don't really happen. But with nightclubs, it's like, it's constant for the good ones anyway. And even the ones that are not good. You see fucking, what's the one in New Cross? The one that everyone fucking goes to. Venue. Fucking venue.
Yeah, but
even
like,
that.
No, but see what, like, I agree with what you're saying in terms of like quality of customer, in terms of just the amount they spend. But I'm telling you, the volume of pubs is the difference here.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's just, there's loads more to make up for whatever that difference is.
I'm just saying, I think the density of the nightclubs outweighs the amount of clubs, the amount of pubs that are there.
And I'm saying that's not the case. Like, there's you're not giving enough credit to just how many pubs there are in the UK.
Most people would prefer to go to a pub than a club, in my
like, you're not giving enough credit to that. Like, there's way too many.
That's true.
Pubs open on Sundays.
But when people do go to the club, they splash.
They do, but it doesn't.
But I hear you. That volume is different. That volume is different
because of the volume of the pubs.
It's just different.
Okay. Yeah, and because of how often they're open.
So, yeah, what do you guys actually think of just the COVID passports in general? You know, do you think it's a good idea?
It's probably a good idea for governments to protect their people. However, I do think it's kind of against people's human rights. Like, you can't go travel because you got, you know.
Yeah, but if it's a global pandemic, I don't think human rights.
Yeah. But it's not like smallpox or anything. This is COVID. Like, it's a flu. I mean, yeah. I don't know the numbers. Like,
wait.
No, that's why you can't say.
Wait. Go back. You're saying.
But like, I mean, I'm only speaking from my experience and from what I know around my
Are you saying smallpox is worse?
He had us in the first half.
Yeah, like smallpox is obviously a lot more deadly, I think. If it was something like smallpox, then I understand.
I don't think it was a global pandemic.
Yeah.
No, but I'm talking about how many people will die from actually being infected
from smallpox. Oh,
compared to
the ratio, but
the
like
ratio,
total number of deaths.
No, I'm talking about the ratio.
You're just saying how bad the actual virus is in itself.
Like enough for you to get a COVID passport to go travel and to go to the cinemas. Come on, like it sounds a bit too far fetched for me.
See, I hear.
Wait. So your reason is because
for things subtle like going to the
so it's not really because of the human rights, because if it was a virus that was a bit more
deadly, then
but that's only kind of in your subjective view.
Yeah, my subjective view. That's my opinion.
A lot of people have died from COVID, so to a lot of people, and it's still pretty infectious. So to a lot of people, it's kind of a deadly virus, especially if you're of a certain age.
Mm-hmm.
But along your human rights point, is that your only point that's human rights related? Is there anything else that is a bit more human rights related to being able of having a COVID passport, and if not having a COVID passport actually means that some of your rights are
taken,
or you're just not allowed in the clubs?
It's kind of again forcing people to get vaccinations just so they can go to the cinemas and do subtle activities like going to nightclubs?
Yes, nightclubs, theatres, cinema. Festivals.
Like, this is bad news for the cinemas, like cinema industry. They've already been affected like massively because of the pandemic, and now people have to get passports to go visit them. So what, you're going to reject people who don't have these COVID passports when they come to the cinema?
Well, no business.
Little
business is better than no business.
The idea of it is that you have the COVID passport if you've had the vaccine, right? So the idea of it is that to try and stop people who've not had the vaccine from being able to do stuff.
It reduces the risk.
So if you're going to do it, then do it like in all like activities across the board, not just cinemas.
No, but that won't work economically. Some stuff are quote unquote essential, and some I guess are more essential than others.
Pubs are essential for people.
But as I said,
for British culture,
it's essential for the economy, is what I was saying, which it is. And like restaurants, for example, like realistically, you're not going to stop people from going out to eat. Like if
the restaurants are not essential.
They're not.
They're not, but they're like they're in the same vein as pubs. I would say they're in the same vein as pubs.
Yeah, the same way pubs are not essential.
Yeah, they're not essential, but they're good for the economy, which is what they're going to...
I'd say pubs are probably more essential just because it's linked to the culture of Britain.
Yeah.
Which, like I said, if pubs didn't make the money that they did, you think pubs will be on this list? It wouldn't be on this list. It'll be in the same bit as nightclubs. But because pubs make so much money, and it's the same for restaurants, but obviously restaurants have adapted to do Uber Eats and delivery and all that shit, so I wouldn't have been surprised if it was in the same category as nightclubs.
I guess what I was my opposition to Sank's point, and it's not really an opposition.
Before we get to your point, what about you, Anthony?
Oh.
How do you feel about it? I'm sorry. That's good.
Oh God!
We gotta get everyone's
precious.
Well, from my understanding of it, I thought it was only essential for travel, and that individual businesses it'll be up to them whether or not they let people come in with a passport, without a passport.
Mm-hmm.
So
that sounds like common sense.
So, to me, I mean, I've already had the first vaccine. I'm getting my second dose in a couple of weeks. So I'm obviously going to get the COVID passport if it's offered. But I think where it becomes a bit iffy is like when it's like they're not demanding or they're not making it mandatory, but if it's not just based on establishments choosing for themselves, and if it's like becomes a mandatory thing for you to do all these things, and it's like, you're not saying it's mandatory, but you kind of are, and I can see how that can be like a human rights issue, but in the same vein, I do think if you can get vaccinated, you should get vaccinated, and there really isn't an issue. There really shouldn't be an issue to get the vaccine unless you're like immunosuppressed or something.
They've recently said, and I'm only saying this because I've seen the government people say it live on TV.
Mm-hmm.
They recently said how because of the new variations, the vaccine that they have now might not be as effective as they once thought for the new variation, for this new variation, not the first new variation, the new one
from what I know of. It's going to be something where it's going to be like the seasonal flu vaccine, where they offer a new vaccine every year. So
updates. I hear that.
So for people who are going to be like more vulnerable, it'll be offered to them, I guess, around the same time as the flu vaccine, maybe January time, and then it's going to get filtered down through the population just like it is now. So I feel like it's something that's always going to be here, just like the flu, and that's why we need like yearly vaccines. So I don't see so I think eventually the passports won't be as needed because we don't have a passport for the flu. But yeah,
just putting your conspiracy hats on. What do you think this could potentially do? If you're looking at it as it's a testing ground of what they could do in terms of having a passport for a certain thing. Like, the same way that this COVID passport is this, and the same way that the LDNs have to have their little scarf thing. That's very drastic because we're not in the world of Titans. But there was very separate thing that was theirs was more visual rather than a passport. I'm pretty sure not everyone's gonna have to wear like big C's around. I just got a vaccine.
I guess the COVID vaccine wouldn't allow this, but it kind of opens doors to.
You're going to say chips.
Chips, yes.
I knew you were going to say chips.
Chips. Let's say, for example, in America or here, they make it mandatory for every single person to be chipped. Now, what can you do?
Do you think that it could be a slippery slope?
Yeah.
For other things potentially in the future?
Absolutely.
If there's a global pandemic that requires it, then.
So if there's another use of a passport that's not related to COVID, would that be fishy for you?
I mean, we have passports now.
But obviously not for travel as well.
I don't see what else they could use it for apart from health.
Okay.
The idea of having a passport is because we're going to reopen the government back again. You can't control when you're going on in public spaces who doesn't have COVID. And with the nature of the virus, the fact that people might have it, but they won't be presenting symptoms for it. And this one person might be the most careful person, they might have had all these negative tests, but they come across someone who's had COVID. And because of how it's spread by air droplets, like the fact that if you're in close proximity with them, no matter what you've done, once you get it, you get it.
Yeah.
So
and like you said, you might not get symptoms as well.
yeah,
so.
and with the vaccine, obviously the only thing that's if you get the same variant of the virus, you're protected against it. But with the way we've seen for it to quickly mutate and develop more variation of it, that's where the vaccine doesn't really help. Right. Well, it doesn't help against all variants of COVID. But
it's like the best they can do at the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the reason why a vaccine passport is more important than just having lots of people with negative tests is because, one, negative test is only indicative of the time you're taking the test. And if a majority of people aren't vaccinated, but they all present to be negative, if one person is positive for COVID, unbeknownst to them, once they're in a population that's opening back up, most people can be out and about again.
Yeah.
Once one person gets it, it will just spread. Yeah. It'll spread quickly, and that's the major difference.
So would you say that it would be smart to have the COVID passports for public transport as well, if that would be probably one of the main reasons of how it's all being spread? The same way in terms of like supermarkets as well.
It should be.
The answer is yes, but it's not practical.
It should be, but obviously it doesn't count.
Why? Is it only not practical because it
doesn't count for jobs that like what's the word of the
essential workers.
Essential workers. It doesn't account for essential workers that may not have been able to get the vaccine and may not have been able to have a negative test. They're still going to have to go and do their jobs, regardless of if they tested like negative or positive or haven't tested. So it doesn't factor in those types of people. So, for example, if we don't do COVID passports for transport, or if we did COVID passports for transport, then people are going to have to wait for these, and that's going to delay all sorts of essential work, like hospitals and like police and like all kinds of like carers and shit like that. It's going to cause a delay, and especially if we just look at it from a hospital standpoint, that's going to fuck up hospitals, because there's going to be people who haven't had the vaccine who work in hospitals for a number of reasons, and so now they can't work because they need the passport, because they can't use the bus or they can't use the train.
So logistically, it just doesn't make sense.
So yeah,
it's difficult to roll out. Yeah,
so I mean, unless it gets to a point where everyone does have the vaccine, then yeah, that would make sense. Or the majority of people, or if all essential workers somehow all got the vaccine, then yeah, cool, that would make sense to do transport. But I think that's the main issue of it, because there's always going to be people who have not had it for whatever reason.
I think what the government is also relying on is the fact that because of the pandemic, businesses have been a lot more flexible with people working from home. So I think they're betting on the fact that because of this, people will be spending a little bit more time at home. Transport places shouldn't be as packed as they were before. Yeah. And therefore,
which isn't
they
the
haven't
case, by
banned
the way.
it.
Yeah. Well, ideally, the people who use transport should be.
Yeah, which is not even the case, because a lot of those people who will be working from home, like, generally, they don't account for as much of the transport using population, because like a lot of people, if I go on a train, like I go to work now, and it's like packed trains, like it's literally full rush hour, like not as like if you go on the central line, like you won't see spaces on the seat or anything. Like normally the central line would be like this, now you're just like that, but you still got people everywhere. So it's like people, like the whole working from home thing, yes, it helps, but people like that are people who would drive to work anyway, or cycle to work, or do some other shit. So transport is still going to be chaos.
Okay, yeah. I understand, and I agree with a lot of what you said, not all of it. Me personally, I think I feel like the passport is a little bit unnecessary. I feel like they could do a little bit more. I'm not in government. I don't know what the actual plan of action is, but I feel like they could come up with a better one.
I agree. I do feel like it's unnecessary, but I feel like it's just the best and easiest indication of saying you've had the vaccine.
Exactly.
To me, it just screams laziness, innit?
It really is,
and it's like, and you know what else is lazy? And I feel like they've used this pandemic to try and usher in some secret things, stuff like, oh, you can't protest anymore. If you protest, you're at risk of, I don't know, I think it's like 10 years in prison or something like that now.
I think so.
Which I think is pretty mad. What do you guys think of that?
Well, you said it was pretty mad by Priti Patel, so.
I mean, at that point,
I was expecting to carry that on. But
at that point, that's the first case was where you had I was talking about like that whole Orwellian shit. Now that's even more heavy in that direction, as far as like not allowing people
speak on it.
not allowing people to protest, and that's like that's more of a human rights thing than the first one.
That's way more of a human rights issue than I tried to
exactly.
use the COVID passport.
Yeah, it's way more of a human rights issue than that. But even then, I think using the word human rights is a bit of a stretch in that scenario. But it's more like it.
It's
like again, it's
First Amendment rights.
Exactly. It's like if I'm controlling how much water you have access to, or I'm giving like if, again, like your life is like you don't need protests to live. Like again, depending. That's what I'm saying. It's not when you say human rights. It's not a stretch. Like I can see it leading to that depending on what you're protesting about.
What is to live though?
I feel like you're thinking about it too literally though.
No, but that's if you're throwing human rights in there, it's literally stuff that has jurisdiction in law.
If we look at like protests, it's freedom of speech. Like freedom of speech. So they're prohibiting your ability to be able to.
Because if you could
you can say what you want to say.
Because you could have a nice life.
You protesting and going outside doesn't inhibit your ability to say it.
Because if you could
have
a
protest
nice
without protesting,
that's what I'm saying.
Outside.
Yeah. So it's not really. That's what I'm saying. It's not really
but
human rights.
But if you could have ways of doing it, if you could have a nice life, you know, bills are paid and blah blah, you don't have to worry about it. But you can't say what you want to say. Like everything that is said, like has to be verified through some person. Would you accept that?
No. But that's not what the protesting is.
No, but I'm saying so you can understand that a freedom of speech.
Yeah, but that again, protest and freedom of speech aren't that they're not infringing on the same rights. Exactly. Like you being able to say something is different from being able to march on the street about that thing. Yeah. Like that's what I'm saying. Like I hear what you're saying, and if that scenario, if the government is trying to like limit what you can say like put bans on Twitter or Facebook or just hound people's freedom to speak, I'm with you.
Okay, in my view, it's saying however you actually can't carry on what you're saying.
Do you know what it is? Yeah, it's because if we take protests as an example, if you say freedom of speech, obviously being able to express your opinion on something and to protest something that you think is wrong. But when we look at protesting how it's been done and the potential for, say, violence or the potential for things to go wrong. So on that basis, you could say, okay, cool, you can see, understand why they did it. But that's like saying, I'm going to ban all knives in the country because people have been killed by knives.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? Like you ban the whole thing instead of just
like that's what I'm saying. It's not. Yeah, I'm not saying it's good that they're doing that or it's okay.
Like if they said if you protest violently you're going to prison for 25 years, cool, because that's wrong.
It sounds
if
like
it's just protesting and you're going to prison for that, that's where
it sounds like freedom of speech in like certain parameters. Like
it's only free if.
Yeah. So
that's what I'm saying. I get what I like. That's what I understand it because. But the thing is, I feel like if let's say I was in charge of a certain population and this question,
I would move out immediately.
Let's say I was in charge of a certain population, right? And people were protesting.
You shut it down.
The thing with the protest is it's not. I don't think the protests themselves are the issue. As from the government sort of, I guess, PR point of view, it's not the protests themselves. It's the things that go on. No. It's the things that go on. Protests are always, like, for the most part, not always, for the most part, are useless anyway.
No, I mean nuisance.
Oh, nuisance. Well, yeah, like the violence of it, like the stuff it has to cost them in infrastructure.
It's the gathering of people against a common cause is what the problem is.
And the visual representation.
Exactly, but again, like that's the point of it, right? So get people as far as like the positives of a protest. But I'm talking about like the actual fiscal consequences of a protest, as far as the government can see in terms of balance sheets. Yeah. Like they get together, they break a bunch of shit. Like taxpayers' money has to go into fixing all of that and all that stuff. I'm not again like
less concerned about that.
No, but I hear you're saying you're less concerned about that.
I think the government's less concerned about what happens at protests. I think they're more concerned about the aftermath, which is the effects, like the effectiveness,
the change of
exactly, yes.
Yeah, but again,
not what happens.
See, now we're getting into that's again. I'm not saying that's why I'm not saying I agree with you, but I'm not saying the government is right for saying you can't protest anymore. No, I'm not saying they're right. I'm just saying if we're looking for reasons as to why they've done this, that's one reason that makes sense to me. I'm not saying it's right. I'll still not do it. If I was like, I would still be against them doing it.
I don't think we're asking if like I feel like we know that there's reasons that they have reasons for doing it. Like they have reasons for doing a lot of shit that they do.
What do you say the main reason was?
Just the violence of it. And what, like, just
violence.
Yeah, like
what violence was there recently? The fact that Churchill's thing could have potentially got shut down, and the fact that the police were rushing, like people at a vigil.
Yeah, no. Again, I'm with you because again, they're the ones perpetrating that violence, right? And I'm using this. I'm not even focused on the UK, for example. Let's take it across the pond, right? So, like, you can't tell me there's no violence with that. Like just within the protesters themselves.
As much as we like to think there's not that many.
Exactly, like it's just there, and so
I feel like the violence is exaggerated to make it a point that they can use to counter whatever is happening in the protest. So it overshadows the importance.
I get people using that as a point, but it is there. Is my point, and I'm saying again, I'm not saying they're right to do that. I'm saying it is there, and there is a cost to that because those people, it's not just like the property or whatever. It's like it's stress on the hospitals and everything in the middle of a pandemic
what
where
do you think
all of those things are going.
In terms of it, though, like not necessarily like the counter.
Is it bad or like just?
What do you think of the fact that they are banning the protest? Like, how do you feel about it?
No, but that's what I was saying with the, like, we're getting dangerously close to that Orwellian sense of a government where they're having way too much power in terms of controlling people's movements and people's, I guess, the extent of people's freedoms. Because, again, they're not touching your freedom per se. They're just touching the extent to which you can express it.
Closing the barriers.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. That it's getting dangerous in that level because then it starts with, that's how they start, and then when is the point they start actually touching your freedoms? And so, yeah, like we need to be against it just based on the fact that they're like just keeping an eye on how far they're starting to reach, and like if they get to a point where they're actually infringing on, if they get to a point where they're infringing on the freedoms, because you've been quiet for so long, how much power do you then actually have to fight that at that point?
Even if they were to go that way, there's not much we could do about it. Anyway.
And that's why I'm saying like it's dangerously close to that point. Like it's bad. Exactly. Like that's why I'm saying it's bad.
To, like kind of dictatorship, communist settings, like
literally
bad communist settings as they paint out.
Yeah. So that's where I am with it. Like it's not. It's not something I agree with. It's not something I do. It's like it's terrible. And
so we're getting close to that kind of government not really trusting them, moving a bit like Hydra kind of.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, they've always. I feel like if you want to go the conspiracy route, they've always done that. But now it's a bit more overt.
You just say we were right.
Yeah, like they've always done it. Like.
Are you just going to congratulate yourself?
In it?
I'm just saying.
It's not like we didn't even disagree with you.
No, I'm just saying it. You made us sound like we were crazy in that episode.
How?
But you know.
I just said you were reaching as far as that.
Fast forward a few bumps and here we are. It's okay.
The idea of you being crazy was the fact that you thought, well, not you specifically, but Sang thought that the government would specifically conspire against him. Him specifically. That's what pissed me off. When you said
the
that,
whole
like, the government are gonna.
I mean, he had a scare yesterday, so you know, maybe it's already happened. You know that?
Yeah, maybe they are.
Apparently, that's terrible for you, by the way.
Says the man that did what on Friday?
Hey man, I didn't take that much. The amount of sugar in that is.
Don't do that.
I used to rinse it, bro. I used to rinse it too. Like up until 2 weeks ago, up until maybe a week ago, I used to I had stacks of those. Like I used to drink them, so I'm not even like blaming you. But I just found out. Huh?
Have you got any more?
Nah.
Like,
do you want to take
I mean, he's out here listening. Like,
yeah.
But anyway,
you're one of those guys now. You've changed, so you're demeaning everyone else, innit?
I didn't demean it. I just said apparently that's bad for you. I didn't say don't drink it. I just said apparently that's bad for you. Yeah, drink away.
In other news, did everyone else wake up to the fact that Britain wasn't racist and felt like a burden off your shoulders?
What? Who said this?
Apparently we're all liars.
Yeah, we're all liars.
Apparently, weren't the people who put the report together, weren't they all black or of ethnic origin?
They were like token though.
Yeah.
Hella MBEs. Hella OBEs and E's.
Like the woman with Prince Charles.
Empire man.
Them vibes. Them vibes.
Well, I can respect her though, but like.
Yeah, she secured the bag, like.
Exactly.
She got that money, bro.
She wasn't really selling people out.
Empire man, innit?
Again, though, what did we expect? Like, did we really expect them to say that Britain's racist?
I didn't know that. I am so out of the loop. Like, what report is this?
I think there was like a census done it was led by this black person. I forgot his name. But he did a report. Yeah, him. Doctor as well. And then he came out and he said that according to his reports, Britain isn't racist.
At all.
Yeah.
No, at all.
It's all in our heads.
I really want to dive into that data.
We imagined it.
I actually do. Because again, like, I don't know.
Do you believe Britain is racist?
Of course.
Wait, what does that even like suggest? Like, are you talking about the entire country or the people in that country?
He was from the report. I've not read it all, but
it's like 290 something pages.
From the gist of what I've surmised, it's Britain has individual acts of racism, but none of those are institutional.
Okay.
So basically, things like microaggressions and stuff are all in our heads, and any kind of things in like the workplace or in institutions like police and like hospitals and shit like that. All of that is in our heads. And society. Imagined it. All the societal things of us not getting opportunities is all in our heads because we've just felt hard done by. Basically.
And this isn't just like racism against black people, just as racism against everyone. So prison populations, even though it's like a quarter of it's like BAME people.
We make up, like 2% of the population, but make up like 70% of the prisons or something stupid like that.
Yeah, so.
Makes no sense, but.
Yeah. Okay. It's not black people, just white people doing blackface, apparently.
Bro, there was this clip I saw of a white woman in like
blackface
makeup, and I'm telling you, it was just basically the video was them taking it off, and you're just like, you're going through all this trouble to look black, where you could just get a black person to do whatever it is this white woman is masquerading as. Like it was, I have to find the clip and I'll send it to you guys. But it was just ridiculous, like the level of detail.
So she went full on black.
Yeah.
For what?
Like I don't know what for. The video, like Shula King.
Who?
Shula King, like YouTuber.
No.
He's like a comedian. Like he just he sees these random clips and then like comments on them. And so this was one of them where it was just like a little like clip of them taking off the whole makeup and everything. And I was just like, just amazed, like the level of detail in the skin and everything they would go through just to make that look as convincing as possible. As, like,
did they look passable black?
I think it looked like terrible, but I can. But again, I don't know if that's like, you know how you've like worn something and taken it off, so it loses a lot of the quality. So I can see that being the case. But it was like there was enough detail, even in the fact that it didn't look good, to be like, if you're making that and it's that bad, why are you putting so much effort into making it look that bad?
I don't know if we've discussed this, but what do you guys think of like people like in the past who have done let's say TV shows that can be, the content can be seen as racist, like
Little Britain and Come Fly With Me.
Yeah, and Come Fly With Me, where people blackface and make jokes which are race specific and things like that. What do you think of people who did that back in the day?
I mean, it was racist then,
exactly,
and it's still racist now. Yeah. The fact that people find the fact that more people find it funny then, you know, you just got lucky in it. Like, and if it, obviously you have to accept the racism that, you know, you did then of what it was, and then, you know, you move forward. But if you don't accept it and it's just, it was comedy, then that's silent racist vibes. So
because the people who are like, you're being sensitive, it's like, it was just a joke, like they're not people who were the butt of the joke. So
exactly.
Like, I'm not gonna lie, I found elements of Little Britain funny, but it'd be things which are probably like whatever they did with Tony Blair and the whole like
and even if
president
thing. Even if it was like the racial stuff, like you realise now that you shouldn't have found it funny.
Exactly.
Like, and people can't do that, which is what we're at now.
And the thing is that it tries to act like it's of the times. And it's like, that's how people were, and it's like people think it's still here.
It's like killing someone back in the day and saying it's of the times. It's like
I didn't use a guillotine, so it's calm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like because it was more brutal then. Like it doesn't mean you didn't kill them. Like,
but it's not like a Family Guy or South Park where, you know, if they're gonna if they've done something 10 years ago, they're still doing it now. Like it's inappropriate racist joke that they know it's racist. Like not impersonations
Yeah.
of people's livelihoods that you depicted as funny and racist. Like,
like the one of the Little Brain characters, the Asian one. Like that was a clear like imitation and poor. And
oh yeah, it's that the ting tong.
Ting tong, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Oh man, yeah.
Like that's it's just too extreme. But again,
I don't think I've ever seen Little Britain.
There was a black character called Precious as well, which is fun.
Yeah.
Makes two of those that I know of at least.
So what do you think of like The Simpsons and Apu? You know Apu, right?
That's voice acting, man. That's acting. I mean, the fact that it's racist in whether it's I forget that part.
That one is more stereotypical, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd say it's racist because I don't think it's like it doesn't do it in a way to offend, if that makes sense. Like
if the actor was of the heritage of what Apu is, then what Apu is saying is still stereotypical, and if anything, it's still kind of worse. Yeah. At that point.
Like, who is the voice actor? Is it an actual Asian guy?
Azariah. He's
yeah.
You know his face if you see him.
Is he Asian?
Yeah. He's Phoebe's
he's
Phoebe's boyfriend before he goes to Minx.
From what show?
Friends.
Oh, Friends. Oh, yeah. I don't watch Friends, innit?
Oh, you don't watch Friends?
I hate Friends. I think it's one of the worst shows ever.
One of the best shows
I
ever.
mean, that has quite a few of those little microaggressions.
Yeah.
Which is, I think the comedy is just not as great now.
Are there even any black people in Friends?
Yeah, Ross's girlfriend's black.
Yeah.
For a little bit.
Oh, the one with the curly hair.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then Monica gets braids for a bit, and then
she gets braids for a bit.
That episode is a bit mad. Like, so they tried to. They went to the Caribbean.
Wow.
I don't know. I think it's all under really the veil of. It's not. It's a different type of racism, isn't it? Like it's stereotyping, which can be classed as racism, I guess. So, I guess imitating an accent, whether or not you mean it to be funny or not, like, I guess I don't know. It's a difficult one because if you, like, as an actor, like, if you're acting as someone, if you're doing that accent, is that really racist?
No, if it's acting, it's acting. I have to.
But then if you're black, like if you're being coloured as them, then obviously
coloured.
But like even then, like with Indian people, for example, if you colour yourself to the Indian, like they don't have the blackface. That blackface doesn't mean anything to them because it's nothing to do with their history. Whereas blackface is, for black people is blackface. Like it meant something. Would you see it as the same type of racism then? Do you think?
As in, if Indian people did it.
So say a white guy is playing an Indian guy and colours himself brown to look Indian. Are we saying that's racist? Because
yes,
you would still say the same thing.
So what about white chicks then?
No, that's not racist.
No, do you know the only reason why I wouldn't say it's racist?
Because it's not clearly
or in the same vein, because blackface obviously is derived from racism, like people blackface to like gollywogs and stuff like that. Whereas in the Asian, they didn't it doesn't have the same link. So in my opinion,
in the what, sorry?
Asian.
Like in the Asian community, it doesn't have like the same link.
I thought we were talking about white chicks.
No. So, I'm saying if a white guy colored himself to be Asian for a film, it doesn't have the same link that if a white guy blackfaced, because blackface back in the day was racist, like in the Jim Crow era and that stuff.
Okay,
it has its significance as
to
like
why minstrel
it's racist.
show.
Do you see what I'm saying? That's like.
I still think it's racist.
I still think it's an obvious like show of racism.
But why though? Because it doesn't have the same link.
Because I
think it's just how they depict it.
I wouldn't do it myself, or I wouldn't like it to be seen or to be done. But I wouldn't necessarily say it's racist. I just think it's in poor taste. Whereas if it was a black guy,
I'm not sure about that.
If you're colouring
yourself, it's racist all round
to look like a black guy.
Both are just as racist.
But that's what I'm saying. I don't agree that.
Because there've been like characters in like old Hollywood films which haven't necessarily been like, I'm going to change my colour to this race, but then they do the voice impersonations, and then I think they do like fake teeth
like,
for.
I know what you mean because there's actual context behind it.
There's the context, Whereas with Indian people there isn't. It's like you said with white chicks, a black person colouring themselves to be white, it doesn't have.
That
any
was
context.
Working for the police. That you can know.
I know. Obviously, in the context of the film, but say if that did happen, like contextually. That doesn't mean anything. It's not like we whiteface to oppress white people. Like, that never
it's not the same.
So in the same way for like say Indian people or even just any kind of Asian people, that has never happened. But again, I wouldn't say it was racist in my opinion, but I'd say it's in poor taste, and I wouldn't do it. There's a difference in it.
Okay, I know what you mean. Yeah. I mean,
wait, what's the historical kind of context?
So,
because I don't know this gollywog thing.
Yeah, so in basically in like white cinema back in the day,
Birth of a Nation.
Yeah.
Have you seen Black Klansman? No, obviously you wouldn't be asking this question.
So basically, when they made like movies and stuff, they made like basically piss take movies about like black people or containing black people. So this is white people doing this, and this was like in the South and stuff.
Okay.
So they would make the movies and obviously get white people to play black people, and they would color the black people black, like jet black and red lips and like afro hair and whatever, based on this little doll thing that they called a gollywog, which is what they would depict black people as. So to have a white person blacked out like that, and they would have them act stupid and act the fool and act like this dumb person, like completely different to white people and shit like that. And they would do that to obviously make black people seem like they're subhuman.
I think they did that for King Kong, one of the King Kong films.
Yeah, all kind of shit like that. So,
but you're saying because it's historical kind of.
So because blackface is rooted in racism, that's why blackface is so frowned upon. So any white person that blackface is, that's why it's.
Like, it's not just because
it's not just because you're trying to
imitate and you're being like extreme and an extreme actor for another culture.
Yeah, it's because it has that racism context to it.
You also said that if they imitated white people, imitated Asian people, it's not racist, but it's in poor taste.
I would say it's.
I'd say it's racist.
I wouldn't.
So if a white guy went like taped up his eyes so they had small eyes, would you say that's not racist?
That's racist.
It's racist.
I'd say that's racist because that's
in a film or something.
I'd probably say that's racist because that's like it's like accentuating the features to make a point, if that makes sense. Like,
but you could say the same about colouring your skin.
I don't know. For me, like I said, for me it would be in poor taste, but I don't think it doesn't hold the same contextual weight that blackface does, in my opinion.
I know what you mean.
So whether or not in my opinion it's racist or not, it shouldn't be done. Is the point I'm making. But I don't think I would class it as racist because it's not. You're not colouring yourself in that way to demean a character, whereas people did that in the past. Do you see what I'm saying? So you can say it's racist, and I wouldn't argue with you, but again, I wouldn't.
Robert Downey Jr., who I think.
I was about to bring that up. I was going to say, like, going back to your white chicks point, like, the reason why I wouldn't class that as racist is because they were.
It was intentional.
It was like integral to their characters.
Okay.
And just like with the whole Tropic Thunder thing, like the reason why I wouldn't say Robbie Downey Jr. is racist is because he was a white character who, obviously with his whole acting career and mental breakdown, he took the role of a black person and just to try and, like, I guess, help further his acting career. But throughout that, it wasn't like, oh no, I'm black and stupid or whatever like that. Like, yes, some of those things were
that's the thing.
exaggerated, but you can say the exact same thing for the white chicks.
Yeah.
Like, some things were exaggerated, but it wasn't like exaggerated to like put down the whole race.
It was intentionally exaggerated. Yeah. If you know what I mean, like they did this with the viewpoint of, oh yeah, we're doing this for this. We're not doing it to make a joke.
Like you said, it's contextual of the film.
Exactly.
If you reverse white chicks, where it's, I don't know, let's call it black chicks, and it's
racist. The fact they even got to that point is racist.
Yeah. But again, it's the context, isn't it? Like,
in the context of the film, same thing, but reverse roles.
Yeah, just get black.
Again, it's like saying like if racism didn't ever happen, and if like slavery didn't happen, then cool, this probably wouldn't be racist. But again, context matters, isn't it? So
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
but then, in fact, going back on my point...
I'm going to say that, if slavery didn't happen, then maybe.
Going back on my point, then, the reason why you could say if someone colours themselves as an Asian person would be racist is because people, like Asian people, have experienced racism. White people have not experienced racism, if we're being honest. White people can't experience racism.
Why do you think that is? Why have white people not experienced racism?
Because white people make up the majority of the earth, basically. Or the majority of the quote-unquote civilized earth. The first world earth.
Do you think it's more of a power thing rather than...
They colonized most of the world.
If you look at racism, it's oppressing... It's one race who feels inferior to the rest. Or to other races.
To the rest.
Okay. Sorry, who feels superior to the rest. Okay. And you have to be in a position of power to enact racism, if we're being honest. Like, you can't be racist to another race
Because it would just fizzle
out. And you're not in a position of power. It's like black people being racist to say Asian people. It wouldn't work because we're not necessarily in it. You can be discriminatory, in my opinion.
Yeah, it would just be like name calling if it wasn't. You
can discriminate. Like, it can be like a hate crime. You can
power structure towards it,
cause like pain to them. But you can't, in my opinion, be racist because racism is...
You're saying there isn't the power towards it.
I was saying racism...
It's more structural and it's more like power-based.
Has a different definition.
Oh.
In my opinion, anyway.
I think and I think you're talking more about like institutional racism rather than individual racism.
You can obviously, quote unquote, be racist to someone. Like I could call you this, that, and blah blah blah. But in my opinion, that's discrimination. Because, like for example, if I said to a gay person, I called them a gay whatever,
I know what you mean.
I'm discriminating against them. Yeah, and I guess that's homophobic. Yeah,
but you could have just called that person a cunt.
Exactly.
It's like, you just
it's
in that same vein.
Racism. Let's say white people against black people. White people are in the position of power, and black people aren't. Black people are the minority in most countries, and they are in a system that doesn't benefit them. It benefits the white people in the system, and it discriminates against those black people. So because they have that position of power, they're able to be racist. So you can say, oh, you white, this, that, and the other, but that's not them experiencing racism. That's them experiencing name calling and discrimination. But they wouldn't experience racism in the sense that they've been oppressed or they felt like, unless maybe they're in Africa. Maybe I mean, again, maybe you can experience Africa in that way.
And even then, it's that you'd have to admit the racism that has occurred to them in order for it to occur to you.
That's why the idea of reverse racism doesn't work, because black people have never been in that position of power to be able to discriminate or to be able to have white people be inferior. Maybe you could say in Africa, but even then, like Africa is not as quote unquote developed as some of the Western countries to be able to have that kind of power over them, if that makes sense. Like,
and it's the fact that a lot of the West was built on slavery, so you can't have both. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Like slavery, the idea is that there's inferior people who work for the greater, quote unquote greater. Like that's just my opinion. I mean, it could be wrong, but
do you guys agree
that's
with
my
that?
opinion with racism.
I personally don't. I can understand it, but I don't agree to it. I think everyone can experience racism. I think where, I guess we overlap is that the impact and the weight of racism isn't as heavy on people who aren't black, I guess.
Yeah. Definitely.
Obviously, Asian people have experienced racism. I don't want to say recently, because that sounds like I'm undermining it. But compared to, the history of what's happened with slavery, it's recent.
No, but that's the same. If you take Asian, for example, white people can be racist to Asian people because, again, in our society, that's how it would work. They're
But Asians can't be racist to white people.
No, in my opinion. Unless maybe you'd say, in China, if you say in China, for example, and you're a white person or a black person that goes to China, and you're the clear minority, and there's rules and stipulations and things in society that prevent you as a minority from being able to flourish and being able to do shit, then that is in my opinion, clear racism. But just calling someone like a this or that, blah blah blah, for me, especially when you're not in that position of power, isn't.
I mean, for me, I look at it more as an act. So for me, acts of racism is acts of prejudice against someone of a different race against you. Yeah. So I don't really factor that much of an institutional against it unless someone is talking about how they can't progress in a society.
Yeah.
So if it's let's say I'm in China, but it's 5 black people and we all target an Asian person, I still say that's racist. And same thing if loads of white people if it's loads of black people just target a white person.
Yeah.
In Britain, I still think that's racist.
See, I'd agree with you to an extent because you could say those things are racially motivated.
Yeah.
So that's how I would list it. But for me, I don't know if I would say if it's racism. But I mean, I'm not saying that it shouldn't be labelled as that. I can understand why people say obviously their opinions of racism or whatever. I'm not.
And I would only
the creator of racism
bring racism into it if it's caused by race. So obviously if it's just 5 black people randomly beat up a white guy just because he was annoying, then I wouldn't say that's racist.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's like, oh, okay,
that's what I said. If it's racially motivated,
Yeah,
like because he's white, then yeah, cool.
But if you can beat him up and then know that you can get away with it because you beat him up and he was of a certain race, that's racism. And I think that kind of thing is obviously hard to prove because how the fuck can you prove that? I mean,
again, as the minority, you can't
prove that.
Yeah.
And I think because I agree with both.
They both.
I agree with both.
Yeah.
But I also agree. Like I agree with the fact that in terms of like individual instances, like if we were having an argument and then like I was calling you dickhead, blah blah blah, and then you just like saying racial shit to me. Like that's racism, but in my mind it's just like you're just trying to be more of a dickhead in that regard.
See, the more of what I was saying is more as it would relate to like reverse racism, which white people try to push. Like so, as it relates to other like minorities in this country, like fair enough if they want to say it's racism. But for me, when it comes to like a white person saying like this black person or this Asian person's been racist to me, that is my main argument that it shouldn't be, because racism can only be racism benefits the people at the top, not at the bottom. Like
I think, and you know what I actually think, if someone is more concerned with reverse racism than actual racism, to me that's racist itself.
Yeah, and that means they acknowledge that there is racism. Because
so it's like
there can't be a reverse without an actual. So
we're all in agreement of that. So.
Yeah. And I think the reason why, like I talked about the impact of racism, even though everyone can experience it, is the fact that not many races have to Google, is this place racist before I travel here? Or in like pretty much every society, there's an aspect of colorism where the darker you are, the less like wealthy you're seen as, or the less intelligent, or the less, I guess, put together people think of you.
Which stems from white supremacy.
Exactly. And so to most races that aren't black, being black is obviously the lowest of the low. And because of that, even if someone like from India or Sri Lanka or somewhere like that is like, oh, well, yeah, we're being racist again. Well, people are being racist against us, but like we're not dark skinned, we're fair skinned. Oh, that black person was still better than them. Then it's like,
at least we're not black.
Exactly. It's like the hierarchy within it. It's why I would say the impact of racism isn't as severe as people who might be. Like, there's a color spectrum, and the darker you are, unfortunately, the more you'd be impacted by racism.
And that goes in all cultures, in all countries.
Exactly.
Like, so.
Because even in places like
even in Asia, so
I was going to say the Philippines, like even the darker you are, like that people don't like value you that well. So and was it Japan where they have the geishas and like
I thought that was more to do with because back in those days you're darker because you work in
the coal mines
or the coal mines. So it's more of a class thing.
Exactly, but classism has been linked heavily with racism. But
especially if the race is classed as the lowest class. So.
But if it's been integrated into that society that being darker is like seen as like lower class, what are you going to think when a black person comes in? You're not going to think, that's just a fair-skinned Asian person in soot. You're just going to,
so you're going to have that precondition.
Exactly. You're like, okay.
Darker is not as good.
Is that what white privilege is? Kind of, they don't realise that they have that. Kind of
I don't know about the phrase white privilege in itself. Like to me, it's just privilege in it. Like
I mean, everyone has a certain aspect of privilege, but obviously, when it comes to race and stuff, like the fairer skinned you are, in most countries and most societies, the better place you'll be within the hierarchy.
No, you don't get no privilege card. Right? It's just there.
Oh, this is a funny story. I was going to bring up a couple of weeks ago. So when I was working, I'm rotating through different labs now. And there's this guy, he's like a porter. He's like very English. And he was like for porters, so for different labs, you normally have your own chemical storage place, and then you normally go pick up your own like methanol and stuff like that. But for some reason, the lab got this porter to go and do it, and then it was me and this other black guy, and then he was like talking about how hard the work was, and he was like, "Oh, I'm like a slave." And then, and then you know when you see someone catch themselves, and then they look at you. We didn't react. But it was just
the white guy said that.
the white guy, the porter said that.
Yo,
what was that he handed you? Methanol.
Huh?
What was that he handed you? Methanol.
No, he was like collecting methanol for us. But he just said that. It was just the funniest thing.
Wait, did he look at you, or the black guy looked at you?
No, he said it. Like we were both like staring away from him, but like he was talking.
Yeah.
So there were like four of us. There were like two white colleagues.
He caught himself.
Yeah. And then he said, just treat me like a slave. And then like we were at the back. He was talking to these other like females, and then I just saw the realization in his face. It was like, and then he glanced over, and then I didn't look him back in the eye, but I was like, and then when he walked away, I just looked at the guy like. He saw that, and they were like, "Yeah, some people just don't think."
Yeah.
But like, that was funny to me. I wouldn't say it was racist.
Yeah.
That was racist.
Honestly, that was racist.
I
don't think it was
That
racist.
is racist. That is racist.
No, I don't think.
You know what it is? It's just he didn't comprehend the situation.
Yeah, he didn't think.
He was trying to say he was overworked.
Exactly, but it's like I get using the whole slavery thing. The whole thing there is just.
Of course, I get it.
The irony, but also like this lack of self-awareness.
Like I thought, it was funny because of lack of self-awareness.
So it's not. I don't think.
I wouldn't say it was racist.
Do you know why it's racist? Because you can't prove that it's not racist. And for something like that, it needs to be clear cut. Because you can't.
Well, it's not clear cut though.
No, but that definition's a bit mad.
Do not, as a white person,
because if you arrest me for murder and you can't prove that I didn't do it, that doesn't make it. That doesn't tell you I did it.
Like he wasn't saying it to us. He was just expressing himself.
Yeah.
He wasn't looking at us. It's not like he looked at us dead in the eye. I was like, that's like slavery.
But he caught himself.
He caught himself.
Because he knew it
was because you realized the irony of what you're saying.
He realized that like he didn't have the self-awareness.
And the self-awareness of what?
The history of slavery.
Yeah, maybe he has like
It's not like he brought it up on purpose.
I didn't say it was intentional. I didn't say he was trying to be a bad racist.
That's not racist.
I don't think it's racist.
That's not racist. And even what you said to justify it is still kind of mad to me. It's like because we can't prove it doesn't mean it makes it racist.
If you turned around and he looked both of you in your face and said that, or as he was saying it, is that racist?
Yeah, if you made eye contact.
So because you couldn't see him as he said it.
No. Like we were there. It's not like he acknowledged us all before he said that. But I think when he said it, it was like, shit.
So he did acknowledge you.
You know, before the whole speaking thing.
Okay.
Like we all said hi and stuff.
Oh, so he knew you were black. That was actually the point I wasn't confused on.
Yeah.
Oh, so he knew you were black. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, no, but it's not like it was like, it's like one of those Kenyan slaves.
Yeah, but you don't look at a black person
racist,
automatically. You don't look at a black person and automatically think, I shouldn't say anything about slavery and about blah blah blah. Like you're just speaking it. Like
I mean, don't say that.
I think it was just like
I would agree with you.
Slave,
exactly.
If all like slaves were black or Asian or whatever, but the definition of a slave isn't.
Let's not do this.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Let's not do this.
This is what happens when you have that wiggle room of stuff that you don't know if it's racist or not. Like that is.
But what's the definition of a slave?
I see. This is why he said
we don't want to do
this.
definition of a slave because we know what slavery is.
Yeah, exactly.
We're talking about human rights earlier, so I feel like
because you'll bring up like the slaves from like Egypt and the slaves from Asia, and then we don't want to hear all that.
Intercultural, like
we're not saying it doesn't.
And how black people owned white slaves.
It's like if you see that I'm black and then mention I've been overworked like a slave. That is racist. I'm sorry.
It's just insensitive and it's lack of self-awareness.
Yeah, it's more lack of self-awareness.
It's racist.
I wouldn't.
It's racist.
Nah.
So it doesn't have no percentage on the racist meter. Right.
Nah.
I wouldn't class as racist now.
Nah, I wouldn't say it's racist. He just should have like thought before he spoke.
So if he said that to like co-workers, if like a manager said that to his
if he said it to a bunch of white people, it's not racist. I feel overworked like a slave.
Yeah, but I feel like the context is very important here.
Yeah, no, there were white people and black people. He was talking to the white people.
No, I feel like he didn't say that in
No, he did.
No, I did.
Yeah.
I said there was like
he
the two white
colleagues. He didn't say it to them.
Yeah. He was talking to them, and
they were around.
after he said it, And he was like,
so you tried to mask himself with other cultures around.
Oh,
I hear
God.
it. It's not getting past me, but it's okay. It's not getting past me.
He's got the African hat in with the eyes.
so what would you do? You spend 5k on an engagement ring, and your fiance loses it, but wants another one before your wedding to show their family.
She better go work for it.
Yeah. Well, Sang would have already taken it back because 5k is not enough. He's spending 55k on that.
10.
Nah, if she lost it, I'll tell you go find it, bro.
No, yeah. Go
find it. Well. You think I'm spending 5k on a ring and she loses it? Are you mad? Oh my days. 5k?
What's your personal responsibility
in this economy?
What's your personal stake in this relationship?
In this economy.
Let me answer.
Yeah, you go first.
I would not replace it just for the sake, because that kind of diminishes.
You are lying.
No, I'm not lying.
You're a liar.
You're lying.
I'm not lying. First of all, I wouldn't spend 5k. I would spend 10. But
and on this 10k,
Sang is funny.
Wait, did you say 5k last time?
I knew he was gonna say it.
Yeah, things are bumped up.
Wow.
I knew he was gonna say it, but I thought, nah, it's too obvious. And then he said it, and I spent 2 seconds trying to figure out if 10 was bigger than 5. Did this brother really say this?
I was expecting when he said no to go less, but
I was like, wait, 10
a
is bigger than 5? Like, 10 is bigger than 5, right?
in a pandemic, you're spending 10k.
I wouldn't spend 10.
Expand.
yeah, I think I wouldn't replace that. If you've lost it, you've lost it. Like,
Wait, can you get insurance on your ring?
yeah, that's a good question. I don't know.
You can get, okay.
Yeah.
Because that makes it more than 10k now. If it's
So I think what I would do is, I would get insurance on the
But
5k
I
ring.
wouldn't tell it.
If she loses, yeah, of course I wouldn't.
Exactly.
If she loses it, well, honey, I'm sorry. I wish I got the insurance was just too expensive.
yeah.
And I go back to the shop,
Get my 5k back.
get my 5k back.
Get my 5k back. You lose the ring, bro. It's not like a car key or something. Even that's bad.
How would you get the money back? Well, you'd get that from the insurance company, not the shop.
Well, you get the ring back, innit?
Yeah, I'll give them.
Because you don't have the ring. The ring's lost. Like, you have to claim it or the
I
insurance.
got finessed.
Yeah,
Mad.
and you have to pay an excess as well. So you won't be getting the full 5k. You'll be getting like maybe 4 or 5.
That's fine.
I'll go back to the shop, I'll get the ring, return it, get 4k. That's fine.
No, but let's see that. Even that doesn't like. Why you're spending another $5,000?
There's a black market. I will find a black market.
So what
and sell the ring.
you're saying you replace the ring?
I will sell the ring. I wouldn't replace the ring
So
for
you
her.
get the ring back.
I'll
and
replace
sell
the
it.
I'll replace the ring for my bank account.
Oh well, yeah, I see what you're saying. So yeah, but
Yeah.
that's just making an insurance claim, yeah, and then get him to give you the money.
Yeah.
Or if the insurance company just gives you another ring, you just go back and return
sell
that
it to
ring
someone
or sell
else.
it.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying. That's what, because I was getting confused about like go back to the shop and get. And I'm like, you won't go to the shop, you go to the insurer. It's just like unless the shop happens to be the insurer, then yeah. But
yeah. This is why I wouldn't be having a joint bank account. I'd have my own.
exactly, because they need to make sure you need to keep that transaction history. Like,
Just a quick caveat: would you lot still have a joint bank account? Yes or no? Just to get some updated answers.
no, I get a joint.
I
but I still
would
have
have said
mine.
my answer was always.
a sole joint bank.
I've always said no to that.
What's the sole joint bank account?
Just both of you have all your money into.
Oh, like no.
No. I'll just give all my money to her.
Nah.
Wait, say that again. You just give all your money to her.
No
just,
trace.
I know.
No paper trail.
Wow, you just give all your
I'll
money
have
to
my
her.
own. Let me be broken piece, man. I don't need your problems as well.
Nice fun. Like we could have like joint accounts for like say like the children's college or whatever. Like, but like my own personal account would still be there.
Oh yeah, like I'd have
five
a
of
joint savings account or something maybe, but
Like
Wait, so who bought the ring? So I bought the ring.
Yeah.
You bought the ring, yeah.
That's
Oh yeah, you didn't say what you would do.
I can't lie, I'd have to make jokes. Especially if I'm realizing I'm not getting this money back.
So you're not buying another ring, just to...
Oh no, there's no way.
Yeah, no way.
There's no way. There's no way. I'll sell the car. No, your car. Not my car. Wow, that's mad.
You're so hard.
You want a replacement ring or
That's
no
fine.
car?
Wait. This is just so she doesn't wear this ring ever again after the wedding, right?
Oh yeah.
It's the one that she's...
Engagement ring.
Yeah.
Wait, so the engagement ring, do you wear that after marriage?
No.
You wear the wedding band, no?
No, you have to.
Yeah.
That's the one that's flexing.
No.
After you get married.
I hear what you're saying.
But you still have to have it.
Then you wear both.
Yeah, you have to have it.
Do you wear both?
Have to.
Yeah, I think so.
What, you think
Definitely not
Wait,
getting the ring.
wait,
She
so
doesn't have to wear it.
So you're gonna buy the diamond, and then she's not gonna flex it after.
No, she's gonna
That's
flex
dead.
it.
I'm
Wait, so
sorry.
you're buying 10k ring just for show?
For show for one day.
Wow.
Wait, one
No,
day?
Image gang.
10K
No,
is
she
engagement.
wears the engagement ring up until she
Engagement
gets
up until
married.
your wedding, and then
Yeah.
after that you wear like your standard
The wedding band,
band.
innit? You wear like
You wouldn't make her wear
wear
that
the
10k?
wedding.
She would wear it like afterwards, wear like nice parties and stuff.
See,
But
that's
when
why
I'm not up, she would wear the wedding
That's why I
band.
wouldn't spend
Okay.
5k, and that's why I'm definitely not buying a new one.
You lot are nuts. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
He said 10k.
Yeah, but
Nah,
imagine
I'm
wearing
still here
10K
like.
ring all the time. Like you'd be
Yeah,
targeted.
if I'm
Don't
spending
buy it.
You'd be targeted.
if I'm spending 5k, she has to wear it every day of her life.
Yeah, exactly.
So buying yourself a Rolex, would you wear that every day?
I don't want to buy
If
it.
the whole point of me buying a Rolex is for me to flex,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
I'm having that every day, like, or at least every time I'm going out to flex, like, you know.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
You wear it when you go out to flex,
Yeah.
but you wouldn't wear it all the time. Like you wouldn't wear it to go into the cinemas, would you?
I mean, taking off the wedding ring, like, sets a dangerous precedent. Like, I've seen in many movies. So
That's why you have a safe, and you put your.
I don't think you understood what I said, but yeah, that's okay. we can move on. Yeah, no, and personally, I think that
You don't want your wife out here.
the single band looks dead. I'm sorry. Like,
That's like-
how can you have your wife coming out with some dead ring? Like,
She's a wedding band.
dead band.
That's what
Dead.
she wears every day.
Dead.
When there's parties, she.
Just don't wear it.
brings out-
Like, don't wear it. Like, clean hands.
What even is the wedding band?
It's like a gold ring, isn't it?
Oh, okay. I was thinking of like a rubber
Yeah,
band.
it's just like a gold ring. It looks dead,
Why are you just having a rubber band?
Like the ring from Mordor.
Yeah, basically, that's basically it. It's just what you wear when you're out, innit? It's like what the male
Oh,
wears.
so it's just a plain ring, plain gold ring.
Inconvenience on the finger.
It's a wedding band. It's meant to be dead so you can wear it in everyday life. Like,
Till death do us part.
because
Then you can take it off.
10k ring or like on your hand in everyday, like go swimming and shit, like
Exactly.
Boy,
or go work or go shopping. Like you don't know.
if there's 10k on my, I'm flexing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
If I say it's a 10k ring though, then I guess I wouldn't want her to go swimming with it in case the gold rubs off.
Yeah. No, but I mean, like, what, she goes shopping or she goes out or something and then it gets robbed, like,
Yeah.
in.
Oh, what am I doing?
issue.
I mean,
Yeah, I know,
hopefully
but
she would
that's
have
still-
worn it by like.
Yeah, but that's still 10k wasted then if it gets robbed. So
I would expect 10k hours for my 10k ring. But
Nah, I wouldn't spend 10k. That's too
10k hours is small, bro.
yeah, I know, but like I feel like an hour per. That's fine.
How much is 10k hours?
Wait, doesn't that mean that
A pound
like
an
make
hour.
it seem that the engagement is way more like the vibes than marriage if you're not even using the ring after marriage? Like,
Well, that's why you have a wedding ring.
yeah, but I mean, but the fact that the wedding ring is not as good
years.
as the engagement ring.
10k hours.
Wait, isn't the wedding
Oh, that's
ring
long.
isn't the wedding ring meant to be better than the engagement ring?
No, the wedding ring is the one that doesn't have the stone in it.
Yeah.
Is it?
That's what I've been saying this whole time.
Yeah, the engagement ring is just the one you propose with.
No, so the actual wedding ring that you have on the wedding day, the one that you put on a finger.
Oh yeah.
What ring is that?
Lord of the
a
Rings.
band,
It's a gold one.
Lord of the Rings.
It's a
That's
band.
just a dead one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. So yeah, like you said, then engagement is basically the big thing because
Yeah.
marriage is dead basically, like in terms of rings.
Oh yeah, in terms of rings. Yeah.
Yeah.
See.
Okay.
See that premonition right there. You know what I mean?
But I guess that when people are engaged for like 5 years, then that ring must slap, like, because you're wearing that ring every
Worn
day,
it out,
like,
yeah.
that ring's rusty, like.
Waiting to get that second band.
Yeah.
No, I hear it. Say no to marriage though.
Don't agree to Anubis.
I mean, you'll be thankful in 15 years' time. You know, I don't want to put negative energy out there. You know, you lot, everyone enjoy their
like
enjoy
we
their
said,
lives.
man.
Enjoy what works for you.
Yeah.
Marriage does not work for me. So there we go.
You've not been married.
1 year and 52 days. My math was wrong initially.
Hold on.
Okay.
Do you need to try something in order to know that you don't like it?
In what?
Not all the time, but you just said marriage hasn't worked for you.
Yeah.
What do you mean? You can't say it's not worked for you when you've not done
It
it.
hasn't worked for me in my mind. I don't want it to work for me in physical. Like, it's done. Like,
I'm confused.
He imagined it and was like, no.
It's like Anubis VR.
the only thing that's positive I can see is just jokes. Like,
Talking about positives, would you rather lose your happy or sad memories? Wow, the way I said sad, what the heck is sad? Sad.
sad memories.
The way I said sad memories.
Wait, repeat the question.
Would you rather lose your happy or sad memories?
Sad.
To this date.
Oh, but then it might not be as funny.
Wait, what do you mean by lose your happy? Why do you want to lose your happy?
So if
Would
you
you
could,
rather?
Yeah, would you rather, if you
could
had the
lose
chance to
one.
wipe your memories, would you wipe the sad ones or the happy ones? And those are the only choices you had.
No, then have to relive racism.
Aliens have taken over. They forced you to keep your happy or sad memories. Which one would you
Red
rather?
pill, blue pill.
Sad ones?
So you,
Why would you want to keep your sad ones and not keep your happy ones?
A lot of
The
growth
sad-
comes from
The
sadness.
sad ones might, motivate you.
Build character.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because trauma has made me hilarious.
That's what I was. Yeah. No,
It's true, but
trauma's made me hilarious.
it really has. I would be a completely different person if I was just happy all
adds
the
an
time.
extra zing.
Adds a little bit of flavour.
You know what? I hear that because, like, I wouldn't really say like I'm a funny person, but if people would say I'm funny, it's when I'm telling stories about myself that have happened to me and like my reactions to those or bad things that have happened. So trauma is what has made like be able to be funny, if that makes sense. Like I'm not like a jokey person. I don't make jokes, but
You know what makes me sick?
right.
You know what makes me sick? When people are happy all the time.
When people are happy all the
Like,
time.
people are always happy. Like you meet them, they're always happy.
Is this
they're
why you don't
always-
like marriage?
Nah, it's just like, but in marriage, they're not always happy. So that's why I know that's a lie. That's why I know that's a lie. Yeah, I hear, we're here.
Like you can say, "Oh,
What
I'm really
is
happy
that?
right now," and it's like, "Are you happy just in this moment for like these 5
Are you
seconds?"
happy or are you content?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess we can go around. Is everyone?
What was that? Like,
Are you
define
happy or content?
Are you happy or content?
Yeah, like, would you say?
I'm definitely
that-
not content.
So you
I
have.
guess I'll say I'm happy.
You said that in the
I'm
most.
definitely not content.
The voice is. Is what? Yeah, I'm happy.
Yeah, like
Does this include drugs as well? Like,
What?
How do you
Like-
always? I don't know how your brain works for
No,
you
I
to
get
get
it. I get it.
this
I get it.
question.
I don't know how your brain works.
The same, like it's a simple question. Are you happy or are you content? What does drugs have to do with?
Sometimes drugs make you happy, right?
We're not talking about that.
Like,
Like,
someone takes drugs all the time and then, they're happy and they're chilled and,
Just-
Why
for you,
why
just
why
for
are
you.
they taking the drugs?
because they want to feel happy. I don't know.
So
well,
that-
they enjoy
Okay,
it. They enjoy
so
it.
aside from all of the extra, I don't know, serotonin enhancers,
Okay. Alright.
are you happy
Hmm.
or content?
Well, me.
Yeah,
You don't have
we're
to
going
be
around.
I mean, you can be pissed.
Content.
No.
Content. Yeah.
Content. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Nubis. You can't be happy all the time. It's kind of like a film, like excitement. If the film is like always
What's
like
the film called?
no, if the film is always like exciting, then it's kind of boring.
You said, a film?
Yeah.
Oh,
No.
Well, it's like football, like it's not always actiony, but when there's a goal, it's exciting, right?
Yeah. So it's brief periods. Yeah.
Yeah.
okay. I see that. I get that.
It's just like when people say, "Oh, I just want to be happy," and it's like, "Alright, cool, you're happy for like 5 seconds, and then you're back to just being neutral." Like,
Because it's
you
like,
see what I'm saying?
it's
Like,
like, it's like the striving to be happy is almost
Sad.
better
yeah.
than being happy.
Might have to like
No,
wrong
that
there.
makes more sense.
In some sense, wait, what did you say?
Well, striving to be happy is sad.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. But no,
Okay.
what he said is like trying to be happy is better than being quote unquote happy because it's the end goal. Like the process is better.
Because when you're happy, it's like, oh, you actually don't do anything after that. Like,
Exactly, you just go back to being content or neutral. Like
okay.
All those happy
With,
homeless people.
Think about it when you wake up like late and then you find out, oh yeah, you don't have to go to work today, blah blah. That's a moment of happiness.
Yeah.
Happiness, right?
moment. Yeah.
there.
But then like when you're pissed off, like you're pissed off for a little bit and then boom, back to normal, neutral.
Happiness could be a state of mind as well. Like in your scenario, what if this person is content or happy with waking up late?
Content or happy?
Or happy about waking up late, or they don't care that they're late. So
Yeah, they don't care. And what do they do as soon as they're in that happiness? They go back to sleep. That's what happens, and then other stuff happens. Like you can't.
It's not just happiness or sleep.
I mean, it depends on it's happiness or death. Like it depends on how you look at it. So it's
I guess for me then, I experience a lot. I experience a lot of joy, but I think
Is it joy within yourself or joy that other external factors give you?
I'm very self-reflective. I don't really think of myself like that. I like to think. I detach myself from myself. So I like to think of things that make me happy or things that bring me joy rather than what in me is joyous, I guess.
What do you guys think of that?
I wouldn't say it was in that.
What the difference between joy and happiness?
In what Anthony was saying in terms of self-reflection and external joy and being able to analyze your own joy within yourself.
I don't know what to make of that, honestly.
Like me personally, I think I want to move outside of London, but there's no way that my kids is going to go to a private school. They're going to go to a mixed school.
Yes.
With like loads of different, like, if I have to make them come to like a school in London, it won't be a grammar school, it'll be like a public funded school, just because.
State schools. Yeah. State schools.
Yeah, exactly. Because
boys and girls as well.
Yeah.
Don't want any of that.
Loads of different races because, like, they need to have an aspect of. They'll probably say some stupid things, bullied the wrong kid, but get bullied themselves maybe. But the jokes will be hilarious, and it'll bring up character. You have to learn to be quick-witted, because
street smart.
I mean, I'll pick them up from the school, but they just need to be able to know that, like, people can say things to you, but don't be sensitive about it. Like, make your own jokes,
and don't say certain things to other people, otherwise there'll be consequences.
Exactly.
I see what you're saying, but I think I probably would send my kids to private school just because I've seen all the private school students at university and they were so much more ahead in terms of like
I agree with
the
that.
resources they have.
I just find them weird.
How was their joke?
Bro, primary school, grammar school kids are strange.
Yeah, they're a bit weird.
Strange. Like, and you can tell when they're from a grammar school as well. Like. Just by their conversation, it's like, what are you talking about, bro? Like,
yeah, because when I was younger, I was like, I want to be able to be like rich, and then maybe my child will go to Eton, and then you find out what they're doing with pigs. I'm like, that's what? Just all boy dorms. I'm like, well, that's so dead. Like, how are you just gonna be like there, just speaking like your principal, and he's like in the room next door? It's like, no. I don't even know if that's the layout, but I just.
Yeah.